What movie plot hole bothers you the most? After several months in a motel watching the Harry Potter movies. Why the fact the wizarding community is so fucking worthless. How many adults were there? Call it 100k. Voldemort had 50 or so followers and everyone knew who they were. Then Voldemort comes back and attacks Hogwarts. Where the fuck was the rest of civilization while this was going on? First year students outsmart some of the greatest wizards ever known. Fucking bullshit. All of it was stupid OHH so evil curse spell that kills you. Like fuck man. They live in London and like 1980th or something. One soldier could put on a death count as big as Voldemort in a single fight. Magic is a freaking utility tool. Why would they use it as a weapon? A magical soldier. Being able to better aim grenades, deflect tea, etc. would be fucking op. But imagine a mage with just his spells and no weapons on a battlefield. Freaking worthless. Ant-Man. They come up with a semi-decent explanation for the whole size changing thing. Set up rules about it. And then promptly ignore that explanation and rules they set up. So the Pym particles change distance between atoms and shrinking doesn't reduce mass. They make a big deal out of it. Showing how a bathtub cracks when he drops into it while shrunk. Telling him how due to his weight him punching someone while shrunk would be like shooting that person. And then he rides an ant. And one character carries a tank on his keychain. And people don't notice him when he's on their body. And he can shrink to be smaller than an atom by reducing the distance between atoms in his body. And a million other things that simply shouldn't work but they do because fact consistency. It wouldn't bother me so much if they just said that the shrinking thing was magic or some nonsense technobubble and then did whatever they wanted with it. But they gave it a semi-plausible explanation. Set up rules how it works and then ignored it all. Why didn't the military just shoot the T-Rex in Lost World? Why let it just run around eating people? The lack of Air Force intervention in any of the Jurassic Park movies is a serious problem for me. The entire series would have ended 5 minutes after the first person was eaten in the real world. As A-10s and F-22s rolled over the island. The Decepticons were tech savvy and understood human culture enough to hack the entire US military in 10 seconds without them knowing. But they couldn't set up an eBay account to bid on some old glasses. In The Incredibles, the son is named Dash. Which is fitting since his superpower is running. But how did they know that when they named him? Jurassic World. Why didn't they wait the 2 minutes it would take to get the tracking information before going into the pen to look for the stupid dinosaur? Further point. Why was literally the only door in or out of the enclosure dinosaur sized? Why did they need a dinosaur sized door? The movie would have been over in 10 minutes if they had put in a regular sized door. How the hell did they get King Kong's unconscious body onto that ship? That has bothered me for years. Thank you. And a ship that is completely unfit for cargo of that size. By the way, in the Order of the PHNX when they expelled Harry for using magic in front of a muggle. But were fine with a letter with a mouth reading itself in front of muggles. They wanted to expel him, that's why they sent the Dementors, and Harry being a wizard was known to his family just like Hermione parents knew. It was just a tyrannical gov flexing its muscle. In third book, Harry blew his aunt into a balloon but he wasn't punished. Teenage dude can turn into a werewolf but everyone, including a government that should probably try to turn this into a military advantage, is just cool letting this guy dominate high school basketball games. Also, the jerk stud on the opposing team gets to stand under the basket during key free throws. Really? That bugs me far more than a potential killing machine running the point. My friend told me about this one. In Monsters Incorporated, Mike and Sully are stuck at the Himalayas. Mad at each other. So Mike shouts at Sully, "You've been jealous of my good looks since the 4th grade." Then Pixar went on to make an entire film about how Sully and Mike met each other at Monsters University. In Batman vs Superman, Wonder Woman was able to hold her own against Doomsday. So I can't for the life of me understand why they didn't give the kryptonite spear to her. She could have easily killed Doomsday with it and Superman wouldn't have had to die. Toy Story. Buzz Lightyear was in denial that he was a toy, but every time that Andy came in the room, he froze. What's up with that? I think he was instinctually driven to freeze, as deep down inside he knows he is a toy. He just doesn't want to believe it. Now why would he doesn't call him out on it, I can't explain. Back to the Future. When Marty grows up, how does his mom not recognize him as the guy she tried to bang in high school? Better question. Marty's dad met him too. How does his dad never ask, "Hey honey, our kid looks an awful lot like some guy you tried to bang in high school. When did you last see him again?" The Room. How did Johnny know Lisa told her mom he hit her? In Field of Dreams, the wife and brother-in-law tell Ray to replant the corn to save the farm. Yet the corn is already fully grown. Any crop planted that late in the season would never mature. Also, even if he got the extra corn, it would produce at best $2,000 in revenue. Hardly enough to save a farm in default. The fact that the astronauts in Interstellar knew that an hour on that one planet is actually 7 years but didn't realize that it would mean that the astronaut they had just been there for 2 hours local time. They also needed a Saturn V rocket to escape Earth's gravitational pull, but could just fly out of the atmosphere of the other planets unassisted with the little ship. Not a movie, but the early Star Trek TV series always bothered me in that the ships that approached each other were always in the same geometric plane as if they were cars on a road. Whereas space would not have any routes, markers or gravity to support that. Ships should come in at potentially any angle respective to each other. I think they corrected that in later movies, although I don't really watch anymore. A very well known one is in The Butterfly Effect. The rules of the time travel is simple. Ashton Kutcher can go back in time and change the past. When he returns to the future, everything is like that was always the chain of events. Essentially, he is jumping between dimensions of reality. So there is this bit where he is stuck in prison with no way of changing the past because a big bully has stolen his notes. So he convinces a prison cellmate with the one page of notes he has that he is Jesus because he goes back in time and impales his hands, thus giving him stigmata scars. This is a complete contradiction of how the time travel in the movie works. The prisoner would have never been amazed at the scars magically appearing on his hands because he would have always had the scars since the first time he met him. It's not a casual throwaway joke at the time traveling. It's central to the entire plot of the movie is that the past is always consistent when you return to the future. Maleficent. 1 minute the fairies were friends with her, scared of the humans, and when she got betrayed by the king and had her wings ripped, they didn't believe her and became allies, friends with the king. The 3 fairies that made peace I think did it because they feared further attack upon the fairy territory. They would have known that Stefan knew Maleficent wasn't dead, so he might come back to finish what he started. Now that she was neutered in a fashion, it's plausible that they were trying to protect the rest of the Fae from his wrath. Should he and Maleficent clash again? Despite her power, a fairy with no wings is significantly more vulnerable and easier to overpower, as we see in the final fight scene in the castle. It's strategically better to treat her as an outlier in their species to try and protect the rest of them. I don't think it was a matter of not believing her. She never really explains to them. She just takes power. I think it was that none of them could compete as well as she in an eventual power battle. Just my 2 cents though. Not really a plot hole, but in Robin Hood, Men in Tights, Prince John convinces Latrine to make a potion to cripple Robin in exchange for getting the sheriff of Rottingham very drunk. The plan is not mentioned again in the movie. The fact. Mel Brooks. The core has tons of plot holes, but there's one that gets to me the most. The subterranean ship was split into different segments. They made a point of noting that there were 6 segments. It was mentioned multiple times in the dialogue. As the movie progressed, different catastrophes befell the ship. Each catastrophe ended up with a single segment of the ship getting ejected and destroyed. By the end of the movie, the surviving crew escaped and the last surviving segment of the ship after they had destroyed 6 segments. Asterisk. They destroyed all 6 segments, but still had one left to escape. Why didn't they just change the dialogue to say 7 segments instead of 6? Avatar, blue aliens. Not bald kid. What the fuck was the point of the final ground assault? It was a bombing run. What would the Mechas have done if they reached the MacGuffin tree? Stand and wait for a ton of C4 to be dropped on them? Also, are you seriously suggesting that they brought military Mechas? Military copters. A huge complement of soldiers. An avatar program and precisely zero orbital weaponry to this planet? It's not exactly a plot hole, but I'm counting it. In Snow White and the Huntsman, a film with bridge trolls, magic forest king deers, fairies, haunted trees, a talking mirror and a witch queen using magic to become immortal. Snow White recites the Lord's Prayer when she's in prison. So what the hell does Catholicism look like in this world? What's the stance of the church on sucking the souls out of random GD cameos? Do dwarfs have souls? Do they go to heaven? What about fairies? Or that random ass deer? Is that God? Then why did it get shot with an arrow? Or is it a different God? Or just some random pretty deer? It's such an insignificant detail. But making Snow White an ambiguously Catholic just raises so many questions for me. That God, it's a shitty film and I don't have to actually care that much. The last Brosnan Bond films have plot holes you could drive a tractor trailer through. The British magnate wears a pin that sets off an explosion in MI6. The evil Bond girl decides to wait in a boat in the middle of the Thames with a mounted machine gun on it. Smart. In Casper the Ghost, when Kat's father dies via falling into a manhole, Casper uses the Lazarus machine to turn his ghost human again. As soon as whatever utility worker that walked away from the hole comes back, she is gonna find his body. Call the authorities, who I imagine are gonna wanna let Kat know her father is dead only to find him at the house. Independence Day. How the hell was Goldblum's Mac computer able to connect to the mothership in order to upload the virus? Did the aliens run iOS on their ships? Did they have USB ports? In The Matrix, if you take the pill to wake your real body up, the machines take you out of your pod and dump you in the trash, which is apparently unguarded, allowing you to get picked up by a ship and potentially become the one, or at least fight in the resistance against the machines. If they just incinerated their dead batteries, they would have saved themselves a lot of trouble. In Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt has a special droid torture chamber. But droids are robots with no pain receptors. I could understand maybe artificial intelligence for droids because, you know, Star Wars. But fucking C-3PO and R2-D2 are literally wires and metal plates. But still feel pain somehow. Droids are programmed to have a sense of self-preservation. They may not feel pain, but they can recognize they are being damaged and seek to avoid it. That is why C-3PO says that an oil bath feels good, because his programming knows that his joints are seizing up and this will fix it. Looper. Great movie. But I like. Bruce Willis gets into a time machine in Shanghai and ends up in a Midwestern cornfield. So it's a time and space machine. That being the case, why bother with this complicated and fallible looper system for disposing of bodies? Just zap someone back and have them appear 50 miles above the middle of the ocean. Or over a volcano or something.